This is part 1 to chapter 4, Means of Egress. Hopefully you have read the textbook and you've reviewed everything I asked you to in chapter 10 of the IBC code book. So we're going to get started and kind of plunge in a little bit. Remember, I described what means of egress is as a continuous and unobstructed path of travel for any point of a building to an exterior or public way. I want to make sure that you kind of understand that. So a lot of times I'm just going to look at this particular floor plan of kind of part of our design building. Remember, in course or the classroom 107, you'll know there's all different types of tables. So if someone's sitting in the back, we're talking about they're coming down through here, and this is unobstructed to be able to get out of this exit way. So this is how they will have to be coming to be able to get out of the building, through the door, down the hall, through to an exit. So that's what we're continuing, a continuous, unobstructed path of travel. Now, in addition, this may include a safe area of refuge within a building. We talked about defend in place. So if we look kind of at this particular floor plan, this may be on the second, third floor, and there are only stairs. So remember, because usually after you've read, elevators cannot be used as means of egress. So we've got to be able to have, and a lot of times we know that our area here with our stairs, when we talk about area of refuge or defend in place, we're talking about an exit access, where here we are in the stairway. So we're coming through here, and you'll notice this area right here can be used for wheelchairs to park while people run and go down the stairs. It's out of the pathway, so we can put one or two different spaces for someone to defend in place. They could be in a walker, they have another knee. It doesn't mean necessarily in a wheelchair, but someone to be able to defend in place. So that's kind of showing you a little bit about what those are. Also, in addition, we have vertical and horizontal passageway. Let's say that we have this particular one, and it could be over to a walkway into another building. So this may be a vertical or not vertical. Vertical would be, of course, your stairs. A horizontal passageway to another building. So it's a way of getting out. So you've also learned, if you went through and you really took the time, because I can't emphasize enough how much you're going to have to do a little bit of reading and understand. I can't spoon feed you through this. So you looked at the components of doorways, corridors, stairs, ramps, enclosures, and of course intervening rooms. Intervening rooms may be that we have a door that goes through here, okay? But the only way to get into this area or this room is you have to pass from here in through to get out. So this would be an intervening room where you pass through one room to another room. So there's kind of two strategies when designing. We're talking about evacuation means, provide a direct path out of the building to be able to get out. And of course, defend in place, where we're of course trying to have a place where people or occupants to go in a particular area. So defend in place, area of refuge that you might understand, and then an alternate path to exit the building. So here we have an alternate path that goes outside. Most cases, the means of egress be required to be accessible or have special conditions have to be provided. So let's talk about terms, because there's all different types of terms, and you need to be aware of those terms. We have accessible means of egress. That's a continuous and unobstructed way of egress travel from any accessible point in a building or public way. So remember, when we talked about getting out, you've got to be able, if someone's here, to be able to roll. You can't have furniture in the way. You've got to have, of course, the correct aisle width to be able to get people out of the building and to your exterior part. Then building core, a building element that is vertically continuous through one or more floors of a building, consisting of shafts for the vertical distribution of building services. So let's say we have this building here, and we've got this stairway that could be continuous up many floors, so it's continuous there. Or it could be we have a bank of elevators that are here, and it's a continuous shaft that goes all the way up. That is a building core. It could be where we end up having an electrical core, all different types of items, plumbing that has to go vertically from one floor to another. Then we have a common path of travel. That means here we are, if we're looking at this particular floor plan, then we're going to go out and we may exit to this, but also this may exit here. It's a common path, so everybody's going to be traveling together, and they're going to come here in a common path. Everybody will be flowing together to go to their different exits. Okay, a corridor, a passageway that creates a path of travel enclosed by walls. This, of course, is a corridor. It is a hallway that goes all the way around. And that means that a lot of times if we looked in our IBC code book, it told us what our rating, of course, of these particular walls have to be able to keep people being safe to get to their exits. So you need to look at it. Means of egress, remember, continuous and unobstructed way of egress travel. And then means of escape is a way out of a building that does not conform to the strict definition of a means of egress. It provides an alternate way. There's a lot of times people that live in a downtown area, and they may have a fire escape on the outside of the building. And so you've seen those in lots of different movies where they have a fire escape to be able to get out of the building. A natural path of travel. That's the most direct route a person can take while following an imaginary line on the floor, avoiding obstacles such as walls, equipment, and furniture arriving at the final destination. So we're talking about a natural path. Here we are back into this classroom. We have a natural path because we have created that with our furniture arrangement. Occupant load refers to the number of people or occupants for which the means of egress of a building or space is designed. Total number of persons who may occupy a building or space at any one time. We've learned of occupant load last, of course, session, so this is just a little refresher. Passageway, an enclosed path or corridor. So we're talking about a passageway to be able to get out of the building. Stairway, we know it's one or more flights of stairs required to have landings and platforms necessary to form a continuous and uninterrupted, of course, way of vertical passage from one level to another. Then we know what a story is because we learned the clear vertical distance from a finished floor to another. So if we had this particular building, and here is our floor, so it's from this level, this floor, to this floor. Tenant, a person or group of persons that uses or occupies a portion of a building throughout. So if we look at this particular floor plan, we may have a doctor's office here, we could have a dentist office here, we could have an accounting office here, we could have different tenants within one building. And so our occupancy classification could be many things. So when comparing the Life Safety Code and the International Code, building codes, they're similar but different, and jurisdiction uses all of the above, but most of the time you have to look at what is the most restrictive. If there's a doubt and you think two things could occur, you always have to use the most restrictive. So let's do a quick means of egress overview. Includes maintenance requirements, limitations of use of decorations, objects that obstruct the egress path, emergency planning and preparedness, because a lot of times you see on the wall, of course, evacuation plans that are in place, occupants must be made aware of occupancy or evacuation procedures like drills. So if this was a school, you'll notice that there's different drills that go on to make sure people are aware of how to exit. If this was a hotel, you notice on the back of the door, each of the rooms would tell you where your nearest exit is. You're developing all types of diagrams and illustrations. The key is allowing occupants sufficient time to evacuate and relocate. That's what we're trying to do. It's to have a place to defend in place if we have to, or an area of refuge. It's understanding who's using the space and making sure they have sufficient time to evacuate. Because if we're in a hotel, you may not be familiar. You wake up and you think, where am I? And you've got to be able to think, okay, I remember I could go here and get to this set of stairs to go out. I have an area to defend in place if I do not feel like I can walk down all those stairs. So a means of egress consists of three separate and distinct parts. There's exit access. So when we're looking at it, very simply, of course, exit access is this area here traveling to my exit. Here we are in our building, and we know our exit, okay? This would be our exit access to an exit. Once we go through the doors that are to the outside, then this would be exit discharge, and then the sidewalk would be our public way. It's our final designation. In some cases, it could be an area of refuge. It just depends on how we go through. And I'm going to show you some more scenarios in a minute. So exit access, the portion of a means of egress that leads to the entrance of an exit. Okay, so we're talking about all these areas leading to here an exit. This, of course, leads to the exit. This is our exit to get out. It includes any room or space occupied by a person in any doorway, aisle, corridor, stair, or ramp traveling to the way. So all of this is our traveling to get to this particular point. This is our exit. Okay. The portion of means of egress that is fully enclosed and separated, our exit is, from other interior spaces by fire-resistant ratings. Remember we talked about, and if you read through all of these, this is a vertical shaft, and it is fire-rated. It is constructed between the exit and exit access or exit discharge or public way, and it is reinforced so that you have more time once you reach this exit here and this exit to be able to get out. In some cases, it may be a corridor. Sometimes there's a hallway before you get out. So you need to be able to look, and I'll show you some examples. So we have exit access, exit, and exit discharge. Starts at any occupiable point in the building or portion of the building. Okay? Intervening rooms, aisles, corridors, gates, stairways, horizontal exits, to get to another, and of course going downstairs and into the public way. We know about area of refuge. We've talked about that. An area of persons unable to use stairs can remain temporarily to await instructions or assistance during emergency evacuation. Common path of travel. That means if two people come together and then they get here, this would be a common path of travel, or coming here, or they exit out here, and together they're going out of the building or to the exit. Exit discharge, the portion of means of egress between the termination of exit and the public way. So we're going all the way down our exit here. This would be our exit discharge till we got back to the first floor. We went down and around, and then there would be an exit discharge to be able to get out. Public way, once we got out of the building here, okay, there may be a sidewalk or something for our public way for us to be able to get to a safe passage. Occupant load, remember the number of persons for which the means of egress or building portion thereof designed. and then aisle accessway, that portion of exit access that leads to an aisle. So back to there, we've got to make sure we have adequate spacing for someone to get out, adequate spacing between the tables for you to be able to get out. So where does the means of egress take place? The building codes and the life safety codes set most of the requirements for each of the means of egress type. Each code publications have whole chapters dedicated to means of egress. The ADA-AG sets minimum requirements that in many cases stricter than the codes. Remember, in Texas, we look at the TAS, Texas Accessibility Standards. So remember, there are 4 different types of exits: exit access, exit discharge, and public way. So here are examples. This is exit access. You can see everything that's in gray. We have exit, portion of means of egress, protected by path of egress, the part of separated in a building. We've talked about each of those. Here they are. Remember, we talked about here. You travel down here. You get into the stairs. Once you get through, there may be a corridor at the bottom of the stairs for you to be able to get out. So this is your exit. All of this is considered exit. It could be you're going from one building to another. So here you see the gray area. So this is your exit. Area of refuge, we've talked about. There's different types of sections within your building. If you look in, of course, traveling, and look on page 244 in your IBC code book, there's a whole section here of area of refuge. Read this, highlight. Very important that you understand how all that works. Exit discharge. That's going back here. Once you exit out of the building, this is your discharge. Okay? And then public way. And public way may not be at everything, but it's a street or alley or other parcel of land open to the outside, leading to a street that has been deeded, dedicated, or otherwise permanently appropriated to the public for public use, and which is a clear width and height of not less than 10 feet. So there's different scenarios within your textbook, so look through those and read that. And here we are from your textbook. It kind of told you, of course, where your exits are within here. It could be a whole lobby dedicated to an exit. Okay. Exits here so that you can understand it. Review that. So we talked about design occupant load. You have the actual number that's there. There's kind of 3 conditions that you have to follow. Your actual number by table with the 104.1.2, which we kind of learned, and the number by combination used when occupants from adjoining spaces egress through an area. Remember, we spent a little time of everybody last time through the scenario where they were going into from the library into the area in the... Okay, if you remember when we went back through, we looked at this particular scenario where people, of course, from the administrative offices was going into the central hall, where 50% of the people were going into the central hall. So that's numbers by combination. So your occupant load could vary depending on how many people are having to go through that particular intervene or that particular space.